To the November Network News. Today we have with us two special guests that we're going to be sharing some information. Our first guest is Ray Flemming, and Ray is the president of Flemming Cargo. And we are going to start off with just some basic question and answers that to kick it off and to get this into motion about what Ray does and some of the things that we've been seeing. So Ray, are you seeing an increase in cargo claims, and in particular, are they damages, OS&D, or are they theft related?
We are seeing an increase in damages, and the reason part of that is happening is everybody, due to cost, is lowering the cost of the product cases. So the packaging isn't as good as what it used to be, which means while it's going down the interstate, the damages are increasing.
Wow. Are the claim amounts staying about the same as far as the dollar value, or is there an overall increase or decrease?
It's staying about the same.
Staying about the same. Well, we all know that there are more shipments moving this year than last year, but what are you seeing from the perspective of the carrier's response to the claims?
From the carriers that are 1 to 10 trucks, a lot of them, you got to try to understand that their wives or significant others are the ones that are dispatching them and handles the paperwork in the background. And it's very easy to get an MC number, it's very easy to get a DOT number, and it's very easy to get a CDL. However, understanding the Federal Motor Carrier Regulations and understanding claims, they truly do not. And they, especially when they buy insurance on the cargo insurance side, they don't understand the policies that they're buying, and they don't understand the exceptions that are in those policies. So we spend a great deal of time trying to educate them, and quite honestly, 5 times out of 10, they virtually hang up the phone on you and say, I'm not dealing with it. And they just don't think they have any responsibility to a claim. They only have one thing and one thing on their mind. That's how many miles they roll and how much money they make. A claim is just secondary to them. So you spend a lot of time trying to educate the smaller carriers.
I see. Well, how with the Carmack law, is it possible for carriers to just walk away from the responsibilities?
It's possible to walk away from it, and that's where it gets into a legal perspective for network FOB, where they have to endure the extra cost to take them to small claims courts, get judgments on them, and collect that money. And from the insurance company's perspective, you got to understand that they're going to take a longer period of time to settle that claim. And quite honestly, if it's a claim under $10,000, depending on what the carrier's deductible is, if it's $5,000 to $10,000, they're just going to ignore you. So unfortunately, network has to incur the legal costs to go after that carrier to, 1, get the money, 2, get the judgment. And then unfortunately, when you do that and you go after them, you lose that carrier.
I see. Well, is there anything that our agent family can do to assist?
The biggest thing from the agent's perspective is try to understand the Federal Motor Carrier Regulations. 1, the carrier has 30 days to register the claim. They have an additional 90 days to pay or deny the claim. They could actually extend that out by sending a letter saying, well, we need this and this and this, and they could extend it out another 30 days. It's trying to make your customers, or not, I shouldn't say make, have your customers understand what the federal regulations are. I know from an agent's perspective, you're trying to satisfy your customer when you're in a claim, and you just need to have them understand that you have to follow the Federal Motor Carrier Regulations. It isn't going to happen overnight. 5 out of 10 of them, it's going to take 90 days to settle. And when you're messing with the insurance companies right now, and Tim Taylor stated it the other day, the insurance companies are doing as much as they can to deny the claim. And there's a lot of exceptions in the policies. So it's just very important to keep the customer happy, have them understand that we're going through the process, but it's not going to happen overnight, and making expectation promises to that customer is not going to happen unless it comes directly out of your pocket or Network FOB's pocket and then collect the claim afterwards. But that's not the direction we're trying to handle this.
Well, speaking of that, what actions can we here at corporate take to mitigate the problem?
The biggest thing from our side is making sure that we have a current insurance policy. Even though there's one on file, doesn't necessarily mean 60 days from now he still has that on file. Just so you know, under the Safer website, when you go in and look at an insurance cover for a carrier, if that insurance policy lapses, you're not going to see that come off the Safer until 30 days after the policy lapses. So from corporate's perspective is making sure that we have a current policy, making sure that we have every existent phone number to that carrier, being the wife's phone number, whoever may be handling the paperwork for he or she, making sure we got good phone numbers, good contacts, and good addresses on these carriers.
I see. That's good. That's good information. Well, you know, we are very excited to have visibility now to the claims, and we thank you for that. It's a great system. How do you best envision our agents using this information?
Basically going in, it's not just to give you access to it and see what we're doing. It's also to help you to be able to look at a specific customer that you may be having claims with. And if you've got 3 or 4 claims with the same customer and they're similar, such as damages or shortages, you know, if it's damages, it may be as simple as letting that customer know if they use a 2-cent corner piece and then stretch wrap the product, it's going to stop the damages. If it's shortages, it may be as simple as a line item that they're miscounting on their end that the driver can't see. Because understand, if a driver's taking account of the product and there's 41 different line items on that pallet, and each one of those line items is a different size and it's a different count at each tier, that driver is not going to be able to count that product. So if you're seeing a consistent line item short, that means it could be a problem at the shipper, and working with the shipper and the customer to correct that problem. If it's damages, it could be an easy fix as a simple cardboard piece on the corners. Anytime you get in that kind of situation and you have a question, please get a hold of me and I'll walk you through it. There's a lot of things you can look at on Uline that'll save the customer from damages. And at that point in time, the customer thinks you're a savior and you've got that customer for life because you helped him. And understand that customer's got an obligation to their customer. They don't want to be damaged and they don't want to be shorted either, because that just shorts them.
Excellent. Excellent information. Well, I know that you've prepared some slides that you'd like to show our agent family, and I'd like for you to just go ahead and walk through your presentation. That would be awesome.
Perfect. Thank you. One other thing I want to bring up, there's several things going on in the United States right now, and I'm sure everybody's aware of the identity theft to begin with, where they're coming in and they're stealing a carrier's identity, and then you think you're actually brokering it to a carrier that's one of your regulars. That turns out to be identity theft. And 4 years ago, there'd only be one every 3 months. There's one every day right now on identity theft. So make sure when you're talking to a carrier, you understand it's this carrier, your regular carrier, making sure that the phone number is the same, making sure the contact name's the same, because the way the bad guys work on identity theft, they'll call you up and say, hey, I've changed my email address, or I've changed email providers, and the regular email was FlemingTrucking@yahoo.com, and they changed it to FlemingTrucking@AOL.net. And when you make those kind of changes, make sure you're getting their identity and make sure it's a legitimate change, or they may change their phone number by 1 digit. So it's very important to understand who you're talking to. From the cargo theft perspective in the United States, we're going into the holiday seasons. And if you notice, if you look at the top edge of this, if you look at pharmaceuticals, you look at personal stuff, consumer care, tobacco, those are all low amounts. And the reason they use electronics to track their cargo. So the bad guys know this, so they stay away from that. They're primarily focusing on this part of the pie, which is alcohol, home and garden, miscellaneous, auto parts, metals, food and drugs, and electronics. So they're generally going after anything. This is not fly-by-night cargo theft. This is organized crime. It's a Mexican mafia, it's a Cuban mafia, and what they do is they take a $100,000 load, they sell it for $40,000. They can sell it within 3 to 6 hours after they steal the load. It only takes 60 seconds to steal a truck. I can steal a truck in less than 60 seconds, and I'm not a professional at it. It's very easy to steal a truck and trailer. So they sell it right away, and it's done. And they have people sitting in hotels. So this is very organized, and that all happens when the driver stops at a truck stop. When you look at Los Angeles being the worst, and Texas right now is running behind it, anything in Los Angeles is a severe. And if you look at this areas that they're getting hit at, a lot of people don't understand that Los Angeles, because they ran virtually out of money, the Auto Theft Task Force is what takes care of cargo theft. The Auto Theft Task Force can only afford to run 4 days a week, so on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're not on the street at all. So on the weekends, it's a free-for-all on cargo theft. So if you got freight coming out of Los Angeles, quite honestly, if that driver doesn't have a secured lot, it's my recommendation. I know it's very tough to do. Get them out of California. Make them roll 200 miles, because you're just putting your customer's cargo at risk. You're putting the driver at risk. You're putting all of it at risk. And try to understand on the insurance policies for cargo theft, 8 out of the 10 largest providers have written an exception into their policies that states if the driver is out of the vehicle, it's considered abandonment, and it's not going to be covered whatsoever. And the big boys are all done this, and it's the top 10 syndicates that are doing it on the insurance side. When you look at insurance companies and how cargo theft is going, 6 out of 10 are denied due to insurance exclusions. Cargo temperature claims, 6 out of 10 are denied. You know, even though they have a reefer policy, if they can't prove maintenance, or if the driver set it for the wrong temperature, it's not covered. If the reefer did malfunction, he or she has got to prove maintenance. Understand that under 10 trucks, and he's got reefers, you've got to have those maintenance records, and quite honestly, they don't keep them. They try to fix them themselves. Thermo King and Carrier has gotten better where there is a computer database now, but it's still out of control as far as temperatures go. Normal cargo claims, 2 out of 10 are denied. The average load value is 100 to 250,000. Is it enough? At this point in time, with all the exclusions, it's very difficult, and like we talked about in the beginning, it's trying to educate the carrier on what a cargo claim is, and you spend a great deal of time doing that. This was a study that I did this year, and I think I'm the only one that actually did it. When I looked at seal breaches, and we've seen a lot of claims now on seal breaches. Understand, in the federal courtrooms under CARMAC, the federal courtroom does not recognize a seal breach as food being fit for human consumption or not. They recognize it as a security breach. There's been several cases that have tried to go in to the federal courtrooms, but so far the federal judges have said it's a security breach. It does not deem the food fit or unfit for human consumption. But if you look at the total amount of seal breaches, you have $5 billion, and 23% of the seal breaches are rejections due to shipper consignee policies. Understand, under food consumable products, you have HACCP, which is Hazardous Area Critical Control Point. So it's an agreement between the two parties. As soon as a carrier backs up to a dock, HACCP is stopped, and now it turns over to Federal Motor Carrier Regulations. And it does not go back to HACCP again until it gets to the consignee. So when you look at the actual cost of this, and you look at Kraft, you look at several of the top 10 food shippers, when they see a seal breach, Coca-Cola, for example, is one of the largest. If you have a seal breach on a Coca-Cola load, it's going straight in the dump. And understand that seal is only, if you're lucky, 8 cents for that seal. So if you have a seal breach, or you have a carrier call you on a seal breach, it's very important that you have somebody go out and witness it, such as a police officer or a state patrol or a security guard if it happened at a truck stop. Because most likely it's just somebody that went up there to pop that seal to see what's inside the load and didn't touch it. But there are policies out there, or contracts now, Coca-Cola being the biggest, Kraft, and several of the others. We'll be writing an article on that so you can see which customers are doing it as far as rejecting that load and putting it in a dumpster. And in their contracts, that virtually says you're going to pay full value. On the ambient air temperature, and this is something that's very passionate to me, I've been in arguments with UTC, Sensitech, and talked at the Food Traceability Conference. You know, right now, if you go to Costco and you're out of temperature on that Sensitech unit, a lot of people don't realize that that unit is anywhere from 6 to 8 degrees off. And when the shipper takes the temperature, if they use a gun, which is an ambient air gun, that gun is meant to point up at a refrigeration unit in a warehouse to see what the temperature is. They should be using a temperature probe. If you have a temperature rejection, make sure before that carrier departs, the driver goes in and witnesses them taking an actual product temperature and getting pictures of it. Understand, if they just do the rear pallet, it could be as simple as just the back pallet's bad, but they won't take any of the other product off. If you are in a situation with a temperature problem, please get us involved while the carrier's at the dock. 8 times out of 10, we can beat that claim and get that delivered or get it back to the shipper and get you some more freight to go over there, because it may be just a bad consignee taking bad temperatures. I did a big study 3 or 5 years ago on ambient temperature versus product. If you look at this yellow line right here, this was actual probes in the product. We put it through the worst case scenarios, anything up to over 4 hours, above 68 degrees, and up to 60 degrees. Every single one of these lines right here, up to the pink, the greens, and the oranges, would have been a rejection by any of the majors, being like Walmart or Costco's. But if you notice, the product temperature never changed. It stayed within their specs because it had to be at 38 degrees. So it stayed exactly where it needs to be. So if you get us involved in this, I'm very knowledgeable on the refrigeration side, and so is Michelle. We can help you get through these. The biggest change is, I don't know if you're all aware of it or not, but there was a law passed by the Department of Health and Human Services, the FDA, which is primarily meant to protect cold chain. Even though the FDA has said there isn't a problem in the United States, they're just trying to make sure there's not going to be a problem. Unfortunately, when they wrote the law, and basically what it states is, if you have a load that's out of temperature at the consignee, unless the carrier can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that that product was at the right temperature in transit, as well as proof when it's rejected, that load is deemed unfit for human consumption by the consignee and the shipper under the HACCP policies. But like I said before, HACCP does not carry over to the carrier. So when they wrote this law, they actually wrote it wrong. Everybody was involved, and what I want to say is the top 5 Fortune 500 companies were involved in the comment stage on this, along with the TIA and several other associations, on writing comments along with myself. And it was decided that the law would be rewritten, because Kraft basically wrote the very first contract that said any product that was out of temperature, regardless of ambient or product, in other words, they're going off ambient temperature, not product temperature, that load had to be destroyed. So the FDA went back to the drawing board, and now they've rewritten the law that the shipper has to prove by lab testing of each one of their products when that product is going to go over the edge that could hurt you or me from a human consumption standpoint. They can no longer just go by a fly-by-night temperature. Unfortunately, this is going to take about 11 to 12 months to get in place. The Sanitary Food Transportation Act is going to be a dangerous game to play. You're going to see a lot of changes in the industry. We're seeing it because we track a lot of shipments, and we do a lot of food shipments where we put technology in the load to actually watch it. So if you get caught in one of these, or you happen to see anything related to this in your contract, do not sign it. get your legal involved, get us involved, and because this part of it could bring you back to retail costs in a claim versus wholesale. Unfortunately, the insurance companies for the carriers are not going to cover any of this. It's not in any of the policies, so if it's refused under these bases, the insurance company is not going to cover it. If you look at U.S. cargo and the theft risk map, this is how bad it really is right now in the United States. Globally, it's even worse. And you can see the low areas, the elevated areas, and the high and severe. You look at California, it's a mess. You look at Texas, it's a mess. You look at Florida, you look at the East Coast, you look at Memphis, Tennessee. Just remember where you're going and where that driver's from and what kind of cargo you have. I've seen them still shortening. It doesn't matter what you're hauling. It's just trying to make sure you protect yourself as much as possible. If you get a chance to review policies from a corpus perspective, it would be great to review a policy and see if there's an exception in there if the driver's away from the vehicle. Because understand, if the driver goes into a truck stop, I've seen it, as soon as he or she gets out of that truck, by the time they even get into the truck stop, his or her truck is already departing the parking lot. Those are just a few things that I wanted to bring up. I want to bring up more to you as time goes on, but we're seeing an increase in the cargo thefts, identity thefts, and insurance policies have made it very difficult. I appreciate your time, and I hope this has been useful and will be useful to your agency office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. That is such a great presentation and a lot of information that honestly some of us may not have really truly been aware of, the statistics and the actual percentages that we assume happen, and yet now you've brought it to light and you're actually monitoring it and here to support all of our agents. And we just thank you so much for today's presentation. And if any of them have any way of any questions, I know that we're providing the information for them how to get a hold of you. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the presentation to our Network FOB agents today. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too.